52, a year of career, 52 practical answers to your questions. I'm Erin Wolfer, and I own and operate Career Advantage and Career Advantage Golf, where I help professionals feel more confident and prepared throughout their job search. I help people with resumes, LinkedIn profiles, cover letters, mock interviews, and personal portfolios. And this week on this podcast, or actually every week on this podcast, I answer a question from the public. And this week's question is, do recruiters put more emphasis on your resume or LinkedIn profile, or do they put sort of equal emphasis on both? And to help us answer that question today, I'm really excited to have Carrie Blackman with me. She and I have known each other for a while. We've been in the same professional association, Kansas Association of Colleges and Employers. And Carrie and I also both have history working at the University Career Center at the University of Kansas. So Carrie, welcome, and please introduce yourself.
Thank you so much, Erin. I appreciate you having me today. And my background, I spent about a little over 10 years in college career advising for various universities. I have my master's in higher education administration, and undergrad is in English with a writing concentration. And I found my way into career services and loving helping friends and family with their job search. And while I loved the college environment, I loved teaching classes on career preparation and career development, I got to a point where I had 2 young kids and I needed a little more flexibility, and decided I was kind of ready for something new. And so when a friend of mine through Facebook posted a job opening for at the time it was recruiting coordinator with her company, I thought, well, this sounds like a perfect fit for me and would be a great chance to switch over to the other side of the table and be on the corporate recruiting side. But at first I took a look and went, oh, this is in New York. I can't move to New York. I'm in Kansas City. And so I reached out to her anyway and said, this opportunity looks amazing, but I cannot move. And she's like, oh, that's okay. It's a fully remote company. We're 100% remote. Everyone works from home. And this was almost 4 years ago now. So we were fully remote as a company before the pandemic hit. So I thought, okay, this sounds perfect now. It was part-time, very flexible hours. And so I started out, like I said, almost 4 years ago. I've moved up within the company since then. The organization is now called Ultranauts, kind of like astronaut, only Ultranauts. It used to be Ultra. And we are a cognitively diverse company. And while we're technically based in New York City, all of our company works remotely from home nationwide. And our mission is to prove that neurodiversity is a competitive advantage in business. So 75% of our team members are on the autism spectrum or other neurodivergent profiles.
Okay.
And personally, having a son who is on the spectrum, it really hit home as something that I could really believe in that mission. So that's a little bit about me. Now I am the lead recruiter with Ultranauts, and so I'm helping guide the team and the direction of our hiring. It's changed a little bit over time. We used to be a manual testing shop. Now we're going into automation testing. So we're very much looking for those technical skill sets, which makes evaluating a resume and a LinkedIn profile a little bit different than if you're hiring for a business skills or marketing and sales or whatever. So there's probably different things I look for as far as skill set than maybe some other companies do. So I think first you have to look at what kind of positions are you wanting to target in your job search. So as a candidate, thinking about what are the top skills that I need to market to that employer. And I see the LinkedIn and the resume as being very different in purpose. So your LinkedIn has to be a little more broad. It's more your general advertisement of who you are and what you have to offer, but it's not going to be tailored to any one specific opportunity or company. So it has to still showcase your background and your skill set, but it's not, but the resume itself is going to be tailored. So that's the biggest difference, I guess, from a broad perspective that I would say. You know, look, when I coach students about the resume writing and when I evaluate resumes now, I really want to see, did they do their research on the company and the position? Did they read through and see what are the technical skills required? What kind of background am I looking for when I'm evaluating that resume? And ideally having a summary up at the top that shows me that you actually fit what I'm looking for is perfect. Now, if I want to look at the LinkedIn, I'm not necessarily expecting you to have that kind of tailoring going on, because I know it's
Sure.
going to be for all kinds of companies. I would say having a photo on your LinkedIn is not a bad thing, but it shouldn't be the first thing I'm looking at. You know, I want to look at what's your skill set, what's your education, and then also the endorsements. That's really what I'm looking for on the LinkedIn, is a little bit more of the endorsements of what other people are saying about you. You know, so there's a difference between having a basic LinkedIn profile and actually using LinkedIn. There are a lot of people that throw up the minimum and then don't ever go in and update it or visit it again. If I'm looking at candidates for a more upper level position, like we were searching for a director level or a VP level, I want to see what their activity is. So I'm going to actually even click in and see what are they doing on LinkedIn, not just what does profile look like. And there's been times where I see red flags. If they're commenting about something that's highly controversial or political that might not, you know, fit our culture or just be problematic, then that's going to be a red flag. You know, and on the other hand, I also want to see that they're contributing in a professional way to enhance the body of knowledge within their expertise area. Maybe they're helping other people through their LinkedIn activity by commenting really good suggestions or adding to value, because that shows me that they're professionally engaged in their field.
Absolutely. And I think I want to bring up the one point that you brought up that I think is great is I cannot tell you how many times I've been talking to a group of people and LinkedIn comes up and at least a handful of people in that room say, oh yeah, I have LinkedIn, but I never use it. And so, you know, that's exactly what, you know, you were just saying. There's so many people out there that created an account, you know, maybe when LinkedIn first started, or maybe, you know, 5 years ago when they made a career transition or something like that, and they haven't touched it since. They haven't touched their profile, nor have they been active. And like you said, both of those are red flags. So I think that's just one thing to just kind of remind folks, is that if you're going to have a LinkedIn profile, it needs to be updated and you need to actually be using it, because folks like Carrie are looking at it. So Carrie, I mean, it sounds like you do look at LinkedIn profiles. Would you say that you look typically at every candidate just to see if they have a LinkedIn profile, or Google them to see what you find online? Like, is that a pretty typical practice for you?
Not at the beginning necessarily. Some of it will depend on what the position is. The higher level and more, I guess, external facing the position, the more critical it is. If it's, you know, a little more entry level or mid level, I may not look at it first, but as they get further along in our process, then it might be a defining aspect that I'm going to look at. I also find there are people that do not put their location on the application. Well, hopefully they put it on the application if we require it, but on their resume, they may not have their city and state for me to know, because we only hire within the continental US and Canada. And inevitably we'll have someone apply from another country, and I tell them, you know, we can't consider individuals that would require sponsorship or even reside in another country because of the time zones with our clients. So in some cases, I'm having to go to their LinkedIn to even find where they're located. And if that's not been updated, then I might dismiss them thinking, well, I thought you were in another country, even if they've moved. So sometimes it serves that purpose. But yeah, probably the first screen is not necessarily looking at LinkedIn, but it will depend on the position itself. If it's a management level position, I'm probably more apt to look on LinkedIn earlier than if it's a more entry level.
Sure. Yeah, that definitely makes a lot of sense. And like you said, also, you know, as people do get into those more upper level positions, they're going to be able to capitalize on their LinkedIn profile even more by demonstrating that expertise, showing their activity, not only demonstrating their expertise and showing their activity, but demonstrating their investment in the industry or the field that they're in, right?
Right. And we've also had times where there's a red flag where the dates don't match up, where I look at the resume and there's different dates than what I see on LinkedIn. And I'm like, whoa, what happened here? Something's not not right? Are they being honest? So a lot of times I have to go back to them and say, we noticed this. Can you clarify what the dates were that you actually were employed by this company? And it
Sure.
could be that they omitted the months, or it could be that they just didn't realize that there was a discrepancy there. But employers do notice those kind of details.
I think that's another really great point is, making sure that your information is accurate on all platforms. I mean, of course, you always want your information to be accurate. So just making sure that it is in both places is certainly very important because, for a lot of organizations, they require a certain number of years of experience. And so I assume a lot of times that's kind of what you're using those dates for, is to kind of verify, yes, this person does have 5 years of management experience in a nonprofit or whatever it might be. And if there's conflicting information, it can be very difficult to confirm those types of statistics.
Right, exactly. And just thinking of it as your branding of yourself on LinkedIn and other social media. And LinkedIn is what we will ask for on the application. We also ask for GitHub because of our technical side. So we want to see, are you actually putting out technical creativity and showing us what kind of skills you've demonstrated on a technical level. There's also now LinkedIn has a cool feature called LinkedIn Learning. And so right now my company actually has that as a subscription for all of our employees to be able to do virtual learning that way. So when somebody has done learning opportunities or professional development and growth opportunities where they've personally decided, okay, I'm going to take advantage of a chance to learn more about my field, and then that adds to their LinkedIn profile if they choose, then that shows me that they're a lifelong learner and they're investing in their own career path and wanting to continue growing. And so that's another really good thing to show on your LinkedIn. And I will look at your Facebook and Twitter or other kind of social media when we're getting to that end stage, especially if we're down to just a couple of candidates and I'm trying to see, okay, who's really presenting themselves professionally. And, hopefully what I'm seeing is consistent. But if you're really job searching, even branding yourself by using the same exact photo on every social media platform can be helpful. And just being aware of how locked down your profile is if you're doing personal things on the other platforms. And what else was I thinking? There was something else that went through my mind about LinkedIn. I know. I'm okay with the hire to work border, but what I'm not okay with is if the only activity I see is you begging for a job, saying, I need a job, I'm looking for employment, and letting people know, not that it's bad to let them know, but if that's the only activity I see is I need a job and I'm desperate, then that sends a different message than I'm a professional, I'm seeking, but here I'm also adding value to my industry.
Sure. That is an extremely valuable tip. I think, one of the biggest takeaways that I have so far is just, being active on LinkedIn, and I've seen the same thing where, folks have had a LinkedIn profile for years and then just now put the open to work, logo on their profile, and that's all they've done in 3 years. And they haven't done anything since they put that little logo on their profile picture. And, you're right, that doesn't really help recruiters or employers who are trying to seek quality candidates, really learn more about you and find out how you can bring value to their team. So I think that that is really valuable information. Also, I really loved how you talked about LinkedIn Learning and how, when you participate or engage in those activities, it'll show up on your profile. And that also shows investment to the industry, commitment to lifelong learning. I absolutely loved that because I hadn't really heard much about that before. So thank you so much for bringing that up.
Sure.
So it sounds like, just to kind of wrap up, that you definitely recommend that people have a targeted, tailored resume to the position that they're applying, which we've talked about before in this podcast. So I certainly agree with that. And then with LinkedIn, it sounds like you do recommend that folks have a LinkedIn profile, but they need to make sure that it's up to date, it's accurate, and that they're actually utilizing it and engaging with others' posts, sharing their own information, that sort of thing. So any other kind of final thoughts or tips as we wrap up this episode?
Yeah, I guess the only other thing I would say is that it's not just your work experience that matters. Volunteer activities, personal learning, not just through LinkedIn Learning, but just in general, there's Udemy, there's other kind of platforms out there. But I always tell, especially in the technical world, if you're self-taught in a certain area, that is huge. It shows me that you've had the initiative to go out and learn something and then put it into practice. And I think too often we just put emphasis on what is the paid work experience. Well,
Right.
especially for an entry-level candidate, they may not have a lot of that, but maybe they are the go-to person for their friends and family on fixing the computer or figuring something out, or they've put together a website or done some troubleshooting for their local church or community organization, or they've, like I mentioned, GitHub, they maybe have something out there on the Git space where they've designed their own video game. Any of that is relevant because it shows me that you've taken initiative to learn and then you've actually put it into practice in a tangible way that shows me you were able to go from the theory to the practice and really understand that technology enough to make it be something useful and usable.
Definitely. Yes, I think that that is fantastic advice. So one more question just before we kind of wrap up. So, we've talked about how you kind of utilize LinkedIn once you receive applications from candidates. Do you ever go on to LinkedIn to actually find candidates who meet qualifications?
We do, because our company has that neurodiversity mission. I a lot of times will try to connect with others who are in that space, or if I attend an event through LinkedIn, I'm going to see who else attended it. Is there maybe somebody that might be a fit for a job lead that I'm hiring for that is also either in the same group that I'm in or have attended events. And I think joining those professional groups that are affiliated with your interests, your skill sets, your industry, are all important because that's where you're going to network and find people that might be helpful to you in your job search. So I know you mentioned you already did the networking side, but recruiters are in those groups with you. A lot of times if I want to post about an opportunity, I'll intentionally post that opportunity within those kind of groups where I know I'm going to target the audience that I want to hit.
That's great.
Yeah, so that's definitely helpful. And then we do have the option of doing the paid we pay LinkedIn to post the job kind of thing, but it's pretty pricey on the employer side, to be honest.
Sure.
Because we want to target a specific audience and skill set, it doesn't always work for every position. So a lot of times you won't necessarily find our openings out there in the general Indeed, Monster, LinkedIn world because we want to get to the right targeted group. So we might work with the universities or the vocational services and areas where we're going to find the audience that we want, or we use Stack Overflow or other kind of technology specific job boards. So I think it's important to think, okay, where might I find employers that are targeting me and my background? And then if you are, and this is might be a better fit for the next conversation, but if you are someone who has some special needs or accommodations that you need, then don't be afraid to ask for those. And if an employer isn't willing to accommodate or be okay with disclosure, then it may not be the right fit for you, and that's okay. But companies that have missions like ours, where we want to target neurodivergent candidates, I think it's a good thing to disclose on the front end because I'm going to see that as a value and a positive, not as a negative, even though there are many that have been discriminated against and have had really bad situations in the workplace. There are a lot of employers who are targeting specific audiences and want to offer opportunity to those populations.
Definitely. And we actually, the episode 2 weeks ago talks about requesting workplace accommodations. So that's a nice little, complement to this conversation that we're having right now. So yeah, I think Carrie, you just brought up another great point there also. And I get this question a lot, or at least it's brought up in conversation a lot of, well, why should I have LinkedIn if I'm not actively looking for a job? And, I think, you kind of answered that right there a few minutes ago by saying, even if you're not looking, doesn't mean recruiters aren't looking for you on LinkedIn. And if they come across your profile, either just organically or through a group or something like that, they may have this fantastic position out there that you didn't even know existed. And then all of a sudden they're interested in you. And even though you're not actively seeking, it's a great opportunity. So why not apply, right? So with that, I would just like to remind everyone that, LinkedIn is a valuable resource, whether you're actively searching for a job or not. It certainly can be a valuable job seeking tool. It certainly can be a tool where recruiters can find you, even if you're not actively looking. But I think just, as a whole, it's just very valuable for allowing you to represent yourself positively as a professional, show your engagement and your investment and your dedication to the field that you're in. So someday down the road, it may not be for 2 years or whatever, you're going to be able to, and you do go and want to apply for a new opportunity, employers are going to be able to see all that activity and that commitment that you've been continuing even when you weren't actively searching. So Carrie, as we wrap up, where can folks find open positions with your company if they're interested?
Sure. Our website is ultranauts, so ultranauts.co, not com, co.
Okay.
That's our website. And you can also email me at cblackman@ultranauts.co. So
okay, perfect. And I will try to include those.
We're developing an academy that we're hoping for entry-level folks that are especially neurodivergents who are wanting to get into the technology field but maybe don't have the years of experience. We're actually right now putting together kind of a boot camp where someone that wants to get into quality assurance, data analytics, or engineering can go through some learning opportunity and then be more ready for client work. So that's going to be on the horizon for the new year.
Oh, that's fantastic. So yeah, if you're interested, please check out that website or email Carrie, and I'll try to include that information in the show notes so it's easily accessible to everyone. Also, just as we wrap up, if anyone needs career development advice or help, you can always check me out at careeradvantageresumes.com or careeradvantagegolf.com. I also have social media. I'm at Career Advantage Resumes on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram, and at Advantage Career on Twitter. So thank you so much again, Carrie, for joining us. And thank you everyone else for watching today. Have a great rest of your week.